This is an unexpected follow-up to a video we did last night about Elon Musk's disastrous Fox News interview. Well, additional footage has dropped, which has proven that it was even more disastrous and unhinged than I expected. Just to give you an example, not only did Elon Musk swear that he's never seen Donald Trump do anything mean or dishonest in his life, that Trump is a paragon of virtue, he also told Bret Baier of Fox News that Trump has vowed to use the powers of state to punish those who criticize Elon Musk and Tesla in an unhinged violation of free speech principles. It's truly insane. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, as bad as the footage that I saw of Elon Musk's interview with Fox was, this is considerably worse. Again, it indicates a real authoritarian bent between Musk and Trump that cannot be ignored. So I want to play this clip and we'll unpack it together.
It's the people pushing the propaganda that caused that guy to do it. Those are the real villains here. And we're going to go after them. And the president's made it clear, we're going to go after them. The ones providing the money, the ones pushing the lies and propaganda, we're going after them.
So, according to Elon Musk, it's not enough to go after the vandals and the arsonists, right? Which, by the way, those are legal violations. You shouldn't do that. You're breaking the law. That's fair game. But Elon Musk says people who are pushing the lies and the propaganda, people who criticize Tesla or Elon Musk in such a way that he thinks it might incentivize somebody to break the law, right? And just imagine the precedent that would create. Imagine all of the things that right-wing, pundits and commentators have said, which may or may not have contributed to right-wing political violence. I recall, for example, Ben Shapiro was cited in one of the manifestos of a mass shooter, right? Are we going to not only morally hold Ben Shapiro accountable, but we're going to try to hold him legally accountable, criminally accountable? Is that the argument? Elon Musk is saying that if you criticize him or if you criticize Tesla, then he's going to associate you with vandalism and acts of what he calls domestic terrorism, which it may very well be if these acts of violence have a political bent to them. And Donald Trump has assured him that Trump will use the powers of the state to go after Elon Musk's critics. This is insane. This is insane authoritarian shit coming from a guy who just a few years ago said, I'm a free speech absolutist. That's why I'm buying Twitter. I want to restore free speech. It's the town square. And then, of course, he started to ban, demonetize, deprioritize, and suppress people and accounts that he didn't like, thus proving his hypocrisy. But this is sinister. You have the shadow president, the co-president of the United States, who is in the midst clearly of some sort of deranged mental breakdown because his polling is in the toilet. Doge's polling is in the toilet. Tesla stock has been plummeting. I think he's lost like $100 billion off his net worth. He's clearly unraveling. And he's saying that he and Trump are conspiring to use the powers of the state against their critics. Insane stuff. Imagine if this were a liberal billionaire under a Democratic administration on MSNBC. Imagine this were George Soros or Mark Cuban talking to Rachel Maddow on MSNBC saying that, yes, President Kamala Harris has assured me that we are going to go after the liars and propagandists in right-wing media, perhaps even Fox News. How would the right wing react? How would MAGA react? How would Trump react? How would Elon Musk react? But the insanity doesn't just stop there. Okay, there's this statement here, what he said about Trump, which is not as overtly sinister, but is in its own way just as deranged.
What's something that people want to know about the president? You're pretty close to him now. You spend a lot of.
By the way, note how Bret Baier did not follow up on that shit at all. Wait, what do you mean you're going to go after people exercising their free speech rights? Or are you talking about people who are actively inciting violence? Because here's the thing, free speech does have its limits. If you are calling for violence, that's not legally protected, and that is prosecutable. But that's not what Elon Musk said. It'd be one thing if Elon Musk said, by the way, we're not just going after the people who actually committed the arson, we're going after the people who have directly incited or called for violence. That is interpretable. That is potentially justiciable, right? Because calling for violence is against the law. But again, he's just saying those who make the lies and the propaganda, his critics. And Bret Baier, one of the straight news journalists of Fox News, has nothing to say in response to that because he supports it. Even though if the shoe were on the other foot, and again, it were a liberal billionaire, on a liberal network under a Democratic president, he'd have a very different response. I digress. So let's start this clip over.
What's something that people wouldn't know about the president? You're pretty close to him now. You spend a lot of time with him. What's something that people wouldn't know?
I think the president is a good man. I think he is an honest man, and I've yet to see him do anything mean or anything that is wrong, that I would say morally wrong. Not even once.
You know.
Okay. Again, not as overtly authoritarian as saying that, yeah, the Donald Trump and I are conspiring to use the powers of the state against people we don't like. But to say about Donald Trump that he's a good man, a kind man, a virtuous man, a man who has never done anything dishonest or morally wrong, to say that really about any politician would be a stretch. But to say that about Donald Trump, the most prolific liar in modern politics, a man who had a documented excess of 30,000 falsehoods uttered in his first term, a man who lies infinitely more than any of his Democratic peers or rivals, a man who is openly cruel, who mocks the disabled, who mocks the LGBTQ community, who mocks marginalized groups, immigrants, liberals, progressives, blue cities, blue states, Democrats, the media, a man who has attacked the family members of people he doesn't like Ted Cruz, for example, a man who attacks his own allies, a man who attacks the immutable characteristics, the physicality, the weight, and the appearance of people he doesn't like. You've never seen or heard him do anything mean or dishonest? We have so many reasons to distrust Elon Musk and his judgment, but add that one to the list. Here's another clip in which Bret Baier, this is the closest thing Bret Baier offered to push back at all in this lame-ass interview. And it goes to the beef between Elon Musk and Democratic Senator from Arizona, Mark Kelly, a combat veteran, a former astronaut, a Democratic member of the Senate. We're going to play this clip, and then we're also going to play Mark Kelly's response.
You give it out, in other words. Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly posted on X about his trip to Ukraine to push for continuing to send U.S. weapons and support there, and you posted that he was a traitor. Well, why do that?
Well, I think somebody should care about the interests of the United States above the interests of another country. And
Sure.
if they don't, they're a traitor.
Yeah, but he's a decorated veteran, a former astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator.
That doesn't mean it's okay for him to put the interests of another country above America.
Obviously, there are some Republicans who think supporting Ukraine is the right thing still, but there is a battle back and forth about how do you think it comes to an end?
Really? No pushback at all? This is like, well, he's a veteran, something you're not. He actually put his life on the line for his country. Shouldn't you be just a smidge careful about suggesting that he is, doing something that merits the death penalty, which is what treason is on the books for? It's a potential punishment for treason. Sure seems like you're just throwing that T word around for people you don't like. What about what Mark Kelly has done or said, which leads you to believe he prioritizes Ukraine above America? What does that look like? Are you saying it's impossible to support other countries or express public support for other countries and not be a traitor? Where do you draw the line, Elon? Explain it to me. But he can't, because he's a profoundly stupid, fragile person. And Bret Baier, again, would grill. I mean, again, imagine that Bret Baier of Fox News is interviewing George Soros or Mark Cuban, liberal billionaires, and one of them had referred to, let's say, Dan Crenshaw, Republican congressman, a veteran. I think he actually lost his eye in combat, right? So imagine that they call Dan Crenshaw a traitor for whatever reason. Do you think Bret Baier would stop at that? Do you think that he would offer the same level of pushback that he did against Elon Musk? No, he obviously wouldn't. But you can see how pissed off Elon. How dare someone express public support for Ukraine? Well, let's play the senator's response to Elon Musk.
A traitor making his explanation. At this point, what do you say?
Well, I don't even know if he deserves a response, but what I will say is that I've spent an entire career standing up for our country, defending our country, flying in combat over Iraq, flying in space on the space shuttle, serving in the United States Senate. My entire life has been about serving this country. And I always stand with the best interest of our nation. And I will tell you this, Aaron, standing with our allies and standing up for democracy is in the best interest of the United States. And when you consider, I mean, who is Elon standing with at this point? A bunch of billionaires? I mean, it seems to me that some folks in the administration sort of switch sides here. I would put Elon at this point in the category of being much closer to Russia on this issue, this specific issue in a war against with one of our allies against one of our adversaries. I want this thing to end as much as anybody. But he throws this traitor word around, at least with regards to me, fairly freely. I don't think he's a serious guy, and he hasn't given this a lot of thought.
So that's a very temperate response. I would argue, actually, he should have hit Musk harder. I think he should have said, Elon Musk has no credibility on this issue. He's a dumb guy who makes one mistake after another. He relies on the federal government's largesse for his wealth. He's doing everything in his power to avoid any sort of accountability. All of the departments and agencies that he's targeted with Doge were ones that largely were investigating him and his interests. He's riddled with corrupt conflicts of interest and corrupt incentives. He's never served a day in his life. He's never demonstrated any sort of bravery. He's a coward, a loser, a moron, a hypocrite of the highest order, which is why his approval rating's in the toilet and people should make fun of him. That's, I think, what Mark Kelly should have said. Now, I'm not a Democratic politician, but I don't think treating these people with any sort of grace or charity is merited in this situation. They certainly never do to the opposition. And again, it's just, of all the things you could say about Mark Kelly, criticize Mark Kelly if you think, I mean, I don't even care you call him names, but traitor? Kind of strange. But a couple more clips.
But yeah, I mean,
Personally, it's got to take a toll.
it does.
Yeah.
It does. I think there's some real evil out there, and we have to overcome it.
Well, I would say that you're committing great acts of evil. Again, so funny. The guy who desperately wanted to be seen as the real-life Tony Stark, the real-life Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s character in the flesh, in the real world, when in reality he's more like Sam Rockwell's character in Iron Man 2, Justin Hammer, a pale imitation of Tony Stark, all of Stark's worst qualities, none of his best attributes, and is dangerous to be sure, but is also somebody to be mocked and belittled for the rest of his life. That's what I believe. What a loser, what a bully, what an incompetent clown. And again, remember, Elon Musk's approval rating is in the toilet, and he's freaking out about it, and he's hoping that this Fox News interview will salvage his reputation. And I hope it doesn't. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.